It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Aaron Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Aaron Saunders. Aaron, how we doing?
I don't know. I'm all right. Better than you, apparently.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I pulled a muscle in my back. This is like, I don't know if I just have a weak back. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but I pull a muscle in my back like constantly. Sometimes I'll just like bend down to pick up like a 5-pound kettlebell or like my straight bar, and I'll just pull a muscle in my back. And then I'm like out of commission for a week.
You should have bumped the weight up there. They're gonna roast you in the comments.
I mean, full transparency. I have a kettlebell set. They're only 5, 10, 15, and 20 pounds. So
yeah, but you should have said you only pull your back out when it's a 20-pound one.
Yeah, you're right.
Come on.
That just goes to show how bad it was because it was at the beginning. I work up. I go 5 to 20, and it was literally the first set of doing stuff with kettlebells that had happened. So roast away.
Well, if you have to get up and like wander around a little bit, stretch your back out during the episode.
Yeah, people. If you're watching on YouTube,
perfectly forgiving of that.
If you're watching on YouTube, that might take place. Alan,
you kind of sound like an old man there, Smitty, complaining about your back. So maybe we should just make this an old man episode.
An old man episode. Well, yeah, something we have not talked about in a while is old man Aaron Rodgers.
We kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday about us wanting it to get done, but I figured it's been a while.
Yeah, and it didn't.
Gave like some substance to the conversation.
Yeah, and it didn't get done still. They didn't do the 3 o'clock thing today either.
Tomorrow, though, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, if Thomas Tull can maybe, pull some strings with his minority ownerships. What was he talking? He was talking about AI? Like, what even was happening where he was talking?
Yeah, so Thomas Tull went on CNBC talking about AI in Thomas Tull made his money in the movie industry. I don't know what specifically his conversation was, but apparently was asked about Aaron Rodgers because Thomas Tull is, of course, he's a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's also as far as I'm aware of, he's the largest minority owner as well. So someone of relative import in Pittsburgh Steelers circles, and said that he's like, this is more Aaron Rodgers' situation is more complicated than the AI that he came on CNBC to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know Aaron Rodgers. We know that this situation has dragged on for quite a bit now. So, hearing Thomas share those sentiments, I think that resonates with the fan base. But on the opposite end of that, Devin McCourty, shortly before we came on here, you sent something to the group, and I was kind of, going through it, just kind of briefly searching through it, but basically saying this is probably just a fans thing that are upset. Like the organization, players, coaches alike, everything like that, going to welcome him with open arms should they end up being able to come to an agreement here where Aaron Rodgers becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler. Do you share that sentiment where the frustration with the timeline here? Well, I'm sure the Steelers would like to know, but they're going to welcome him with open arms if it doesn't. The fan base, I think a lot of them are to the point now where it's they don't even they're past this. They don't even want him regardless if he ends up signing. Do you think that there is a discrepancy that is taking place between the fans and the organization?
Well, I definitely think the organization, because there's been so much communication. There's a report yesterday or Sunday night maybe that they've still been in pretty constant contact with Rodgers. That's what I'm hearing from people inside the organization, that the front office, Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, those people who are actually making decisions, they're aware of what Aaron has going on in his life. They're aware of what he's doing. I don't sense any frustration from that area at all. And of course there shouldn't be. They're the ones that are saying, yeah, okay, this is fine. Take as long as you want, So of course they're not frustrated. Obviously the fans are very frustrated by the length of time this process has dragged on. There were a lot of fans that didn't want Aaron Rodgers to begin with. I think he's just a polarizing figure. And I think those fans have only gotten louder as the time has gone on. But I don't think, and this is sort of Devin McCourty's point, that the locker room is not going to care that it took Aaron Rodgers 4 months to decide to sign. They're not going to care at all. The day he shows up, they're going to be like, sweet, we just got a lot better. And that's the only thing that's going to go through their minds. as long as it happens before we get too far into this offseason. You show up in the middle of training camp, okay,
Yeah.
maybe not. Like, a lot of work has been done with Mason Rudolph at that point. Then there's going to start hard feelings about, like, oh, well, why didn't you show up? He was here. Why weren't you here? That kind of thing. But, like, certainly up to the middle of OTAs, even like mini camp, if he signs the contract before then, I would not expect them to be any poor reaction from the locker room whatsoever. I think that the Steelers players will just be like, yep, cool, we got a better quarterback. Great, that's awesome.
Yeah, even I don't know that frustration would be the right word, but even like players that are just like, wanting it to happen, and with each passing day, they're like, can this please just happen today? Can this please just happen today? The minute that it happens, it would be the reaction that you're saying. So like, even if, again, I don't know the frustration's the right word, but like a desire to just have it done right now or as soon as possible, I think that would be just completely erased within the organization by people if they were even on the fence about it or whatever, the minute that he would sign and show up. In terms of like showing up though, while we haven't, like, we kept talking about what we felt like needed to be deadlines, Steelers weren't giving him one. Was this Tim or Matt Hasselbeck?
Yeah, it's a good question.
One of the Hasselbecks that played quarterback. A Hasselbeck was talking about the Aaron Rodgers deadline thing here and said he's got to show up for OTAs. You just mentioned the middle of OTAs, but it was Matt. Okay. All right. I'd say, no shade there, but that probably carries a little bit more credence.
The better of the Hasselbacks.
Matt, a more accomplished player, certainly in his time. Do you think that that's imperative? The start of OTAs we just talked about, like, unless he shows up middle of training.
I wouldn't think the start of OTAs is imperative. I do think once OTA starts, you do start to see diminishing results. Like, things will be better for everyone if he is there on the first day of OTAs than if he is not there at all over the.
It's 3 weeks from today, isn't it?
Yeah, end of May, like the day after Memorial Day, 27th. Yeah, okay, so 3 weeks from today. They only scheduled 6 OTAs, so like it shouldn't be that hard to be there for him. I think if if you miss a week, okay. If you miss both weeks, I mean, they'll get through it, I think, but it would be better if he was there.
Certainly. And, I've talked about, I feel like I harp on it every time that we talk about Rodgers and like when we need to get him in by and stuff like that. I'm not so much worried about like a conditioning standpoint or anything like that. I just think about, how intricate and how different the things that he does from the quarterback position, like pre-snap, like what he needs from his receivers, the different checks he does, the hand motions and stuff. Like, you got to be on the same page with guys. I just feel like that aspect of things is going to take a little bit. Like, I think he'll be able to grasp the playbook and everything like that relatively quickly. But like in terms of the specificness of things that he needs from his receivers and stuff, that's the part of that where I feel like there's going to be like a cohesion process that needs to take place, which is why, sooner better for me.
Yeah, especially like, he's a guy that has been in the league a long time, but he's also been pretty insulated in that, like, he didn't have a lot of wide receiver turnover in Green Bay. And then he brought a couple of his guys with him to New York. Like, it's not like this is Tom Brady, who over the course of his career, it just felt like cycled through an entire new group of receivers every 2 seasons. Like, this is a guy who threw to Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson 1,000 times each, I feel like.
James
Jones.
Like,
yeah, like it was not like that's something he's done a lot of in his career, is just, sort of throw to whoever is in there. And so I definitely think that maybe more so than a different kind of quarterback makes this time of the year more important.
Yeah. And we've talked about, really having no idea what it's how the relationship is going to look like between Aaron Rodgers and Artie Smith. Like, feel pretty good about how things would go with Mike Tomlin, right? There's been a shared respect there for a long time, to the point where like a lot of people thought that this could happen years ago with Aaron Rodgers coming to the Steelers. But that would be the question for me too, is like that relationship. Obviously we saw how things developed as the season went on with Russell Wilson. It's hard to say how personalities are going to mesh or anything like that. So I don't want to speculate, but that is a part where, again, I know that they already had that meeting in Pittsburgh and stuff like that, but the more time around each other to try to figure that out, I think the better as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it just helps everybody. It helps Arthur Smith be someone who is more, better understanding of what Aaron likes and doesn't like in terms of play calls. Like it helps.
Mm-hmm.
It helps when you saw Russell Wilson get injured. I think the fact that he had been with the team all through OTAs is the reason that Mike Tomlin had the faith to go back to him when he did, coming off that injury, right? Because you've established a baseline of a relationship that, oh yeah, we're good. We'll go back to that guy. You miss out on those opportunities, then like the way things go down the field, down the path, it may not go the way you want.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to me to see how this whole thing plays out, and if it does come to fruition, if it doesn't, what things are going to look like in terms of that QB rotation, stuff like that, as we work through the offseason here. Aaron Rodgers, another topic surrounding Aaron Rodgers, if he is going to play, going to need a different type of helmet. The helmet that he had been wearing banned, so we'll see if he can find another one that he likes. But as it pertains to helmets,
the helmet people are crazy. Like, I remember like Mitch Trubisky one day at practice wore a different helmet, and I just like threw out a tweet of like, here's the backup quarterback. I don't know. Or maybe it was just like all four quarterbacks standing in a line or something like that. And like within seconds, there's be like, oh my gosh, there's Mitch in the new Vicus 318A. I'm like, what? Like,
that's not.
It's like sneaker people, but even weirder. I don't know. There are helmet people out there though that are just like obsessed with the different brands of helmet.
I think he's a shut guy, right?
He's definitely a shut guy. In fact, he said the helmet he wore is a shut. I don't know what, but he said whatever shut has that will meet the new qualifications. The reason he can't wear his old helmet is because the NFL keeps making the concussion protections of the helmets more and more stringent as time goes on. And that's the reason actually for our next piece of news. But he's just said he's going to wear whatever shut has that now qualifies. So I don't know.
The way he said it, though, and I don't know if it almost was like he's looking for the least safe that he can get. Like whatever one barely passes the threshold.
Well, I think was the least different from what he was wearing. I think that's probably what he's going for. I'm sure if he was just like, this is exactly like what you had before, but it's more safe, it'd be like, great. But like I think it was the least different is probably what he's looking for.
Well, speaking of different in helmets, Steelers getting an alternate helmet next season. I know that this was like kind of floated out there. We didn't touch on it when it was, just because like, you see the stuff leak sometimes and it's not coming from a reputable source, but seems legit now. So Steelers going to get an alternate helmet. Is it going to be a gold helmet? What are we thinking in terms of what this is going to look like?
I honestly don't know. I've seen a lot of people speculate that it will be the return of the gold helmet that they wore from 2007 to 2009. I would be perfectly fine with that. I like that helmet. I think it would look good with their Color Rush uniform if they want to go down that road. I know they've talked for years about the idea of wearing a gold jersey. So maybe they'll go gold.
Oh, wow.
All gold Color Rush. I don't know. That could be interesting.
I forgot that was floated out there too, that they were retiring the current Color Rush.
So I know like years and years ago, they had put forth the idea of wearing a gold jersey to wear on the road, to be like when like the Dolphins would make them wear black in September in Miami, and they'd be like, haha, no. And then the NFL kind of nixed that. They said they couldn't wear the alternates on the road. They had to be home alternates. So they kind of put the yellow idea on the back burner for a while. But a gold alternate would be interesting. Gold helmet would be interesting. There's only so much you can do with the Steelers logo on a helmet to like make an alternate helmet. I don't know. I don't know. The Steelers are such traditionalists. I don't like. I think everybody's seen like some photoshops of like what some different alternate helmets would look like. I've never seen one that to me was like, yep, Steelers should do that. Like, I don't know. They just don't.
I mean, you're saying should. I think would. Like, that's the thing for me.
Or
Like,
would
I'm like,
maybe
yeah,
is a
there's no.
better.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's just
like
hard for me to see them.
maybe like a slate gray, like a steel color helmet instead of black. I could get down with that maybe.
Yeah. So when you were talking there, though, like my thing, I like the idea. I think like the way that I'm laying it out in my head of the gold helmet with the color rush, the current color rush. But if they were to switch, I don't know that I like the idea of all gold.
Gold
like
on
that.
gold. I know. I don't think the color rush uniforms in general look very good because I don't think head to toe one color, unless it's black or white, I think it usually looks pretty bad. The black and the white ones look okay, but I think like when like the Ravens wear all purple, I think that's their worst look. Like
I know it would be a different type of gold, but those Jaguars color rush ones that they used to have, that gold, how they were top to bottom gold and they had the gradient helmet. It was like black and gold with them. Yeah, my goodness. Like, so I'm just thinking if you're going top to bottom gold like that.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe gold helmet, gold jersey, black pants maybe would be okay. I don't know.
I'd have to see a mock-up.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't really have any idea what they're doing with that. We do know so the NFL had for a long time a one helmet policy where you could change the paint design on the helmet, but you had to keep the same shell. And that was because as they're developing these more stringent helmets, they wanted to make sure there was even availability. They wanted the providers to be able to have enough helmets that it wasn't like a team was going to have a second helmet set and a player couldn't get their choice helmet no matter what. Like they didn't want a player ever have to say like, well, I really want to wear the XG45, but we have to have two and I can't get a second one. So now we have to have a throwback helmet and I have to wear this other helmet that I don't like as much, because then they open themselves up to litigation because this is a style choice and not a safety choice. But now that they've been able to have these improved helmet programs around for a couple of years, and it seems like there are manufacturing ability for most guys to get whatever helmet they want, for every team to have two. That's why the NFL relaxed the policy now to go back to two helmets per team. They also relaxed the policy about alternate uniforms. Teams can now wear their alternate uniforms 4 times a year, which is half their home games, maybe, if they want to. I'll be interested to see if the Steelers go down that road. I would be kind of surprised if they chose to wear them more than twice, but we'll see. My idea for this, I think I've talked about it before, but everybody wants the block number uniforms. I know why the Steelers don't want to do it. First of all, they're much, much, much easier to rip off than the italic format jerseys because they have trademarked the font that they use on their jerseys, and they can't trademark a generic block jersey font. So then it becomes very difficult to prevent counterfeiting. And that's one of the reasons why they have them. But I mean, the other reason is their italic font uniforms are now like legendary on their own. They've been wearing them since 1997. They wore 2 Super Bowls in them. For any other team, that would be the greatest uniform in team history, right? It's just that for the Steelers, it happens to precede a different one. But I think they should, after Thanksgiving, Pitt's done, you paint the end zones, and you start wearing the block uniforms from then until you're done.
I have been pushed. I love the idea. I also love the idea of block number road ones though too. So
I'd be okay with that.
Is that possible?
Well, you can only wear them 4 times. So I do think you can now wear some of them on the road. I don't know if you can wear. I don't know what the rules are about.
So it's 4 in total alternates.
So you can. I think the only way you can wear a road. I don't think you can wear a road alternate, but I think you can wear a road throwback. I think is how it works. So that would be okay. Okay, like you can't design a road alternate, but you can wear a road throwback, I think.
Interesting.
Okay. So so that'd be okay. But I really love the idea of just every home game in December with the block numbers and have it coincide with your celebrations of the former teams. I think it's the 50th anniversary of another Super Bowl team this year. I think that would be awesome, and I think people would really love it. But we'll see. I think that's a fun idea, but I don't know.
just like, do we know anything about a timeline for when this will get announced? The schedule comes out a week from tomorrow. I wasn't sure. Like, will they announce it sometime within that time frame? Could this drag into
I think it was during. Man, I don't know. I would say like in the spring generally, like
Okay.
before the end of mini camp, we would probably find out.
Okay. I was just saying, are we gonna take this all the way to like when we're at Latrobe and Rooney gets up there about with the Hall of Fame class or whatever, and then also
Like
says,
he came to the facility. I say came. He's at the facility every day. He came into this media room to talk to us when they announced they were retiring Franco's jersey in 23, and that was in the spring. So I would assume about that timeline.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Maybe we
shall
should
wait
take
and
a
see
show.
on that.
Maybe we should take a show this week while we got very little going on to talk about which numbers the Steelers should retire. That'd be interesting.
Okay. Well, if we weren't already, you even saying that, I'm sure we'll get it going in the comments. So we go to the comments now to look for some questions. My man Bob here actually has a couple. I don't know if he's an Iowa fan, but both of his questions relate to Iowa. He said, what do you think of a reunion pairing Iowa Hawkeyes, Y.A. Black and Logan Lee, making the defensive line more dominant? Wouldn't Logan Lee be a possible rotational 3-tech? Well, I will say, Alan, before we even dive into this conversation, we had Tom Cackert on last week. Great conversation regarding this. And I would, go back and check out that episode once we're done here. But he offered insight on this exact same thing. So we can obviously give our thoughts, but I just wanted to share that as well. If you want somebody that's been covering Iowa for 24, I think he said years at least, something like that. Some great insight there. But Alan?
Speaking of Iowa did wear an all yellow alternate.
There we go.
Or have it. Maybe it just came out even. Maybe they haven't even worn it yet. But it has like a black collar and a black helmet, but then yellow all the rest of the way down.
Okay.
It's interesting. Maybe get down with that. I think Logan Lee has some work to do to make this team, if I'm being like bluntly honest. They really loaded a bunch of guys on top of him. I was a little surprised that they signed Ekawale and brought back Loudermilk. Because like I don't see how all those guys make the team. I just don't. Not saying Logan Lee can't do it. I just think there's some work to be done there, and we'll see. I think that's a legit camp battle as like who the backup 3/5 techs are after. I mean, obviously Harmon, Ekawale, and Hayward are sort of I would call locks unless there's an injury. But after that, man, there's 4 or 5 guys for 2 or 3 spots that I think will be really intense competition.
Yeah, I'm not writing Logan Lee off. I mean, obviously the injury last year sucks and everything like that. I feel like probably could have, if there weren't roster spots, obviously with the way that they are, and you could just freely come and go without having a certain number of them, Logan Lee probably could have returned at some point last season. We know that they didn't have to put him on.
He was healthy, yeah.
But losing last season and then with the additions that they made, I don't think that they like completely blocked him out from being able to make this roster. But like you said, I think he does face an uphill climb to the point where like right now, if I'm giving a very, very early roster projection, he's not making the team, unfortunately. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, what he could do on a 53-man roster playing next to a college teammate in Y.A. Black when I'm right now making a prediction that I don't think he's going to make the roster. As much as that sucks. Like, how much time are they even going to see with each other is my question too.
Well, I think they'll probably play next to each other a good bit.
Back of those. Do you think he's the second in rotation?
Y.A. Black will be, yeah.
Well, yeah, Y.A. Black. Yeah, I'm talking about with Logan Lee within the second group.
Oh, I mean, look, Cam Hayward doesn't actually practice at this time.
That's true. You're right.
So like you kind of bump him off, and Dean Lowry, I doubt will be taking a lot of reps. So yeah, I would.
Another name right there though too.
I think you would get Lee in the mix. So, yeah.
Do you think to that point though, the name you just brought up there, Dean Lowry? I mean, I would like to think the Steelers should take the best players. Do you think that there could be some financial aspect at play here though too, where you look at like Logan Lee making pennies? Dean Lowry, not making a bunch of money, but certainly there's a discrepancy between the two if you're fighting for one roster spot.
Yeah, $2.5 million in salary from Dean Lowry this year. I mean, they don't need the money; they're not hurting for it. But I think that can be a tiebreaker of sorts in some ways. But also, like I'll say the other side of that is like Dean Lowry, much more likely to be poached by someone else. I think you're looking at, if you're the Steelers and you're looking at those, I think it's all those guys I've talked about, right? It's Loudermilk, it's Leal, it's Stacey Otomowo, like they're all involved. But like, let's just look at Lowry and Lee for a second. Yeah, you're looking like, okay, we saved $2.5 million if we cut Lowry, but what are the chances we can get Lee through waivers to the practice squad? Like, probably a lot greater than Lowry, who's been in the league for 8 years or something like that, like relatively known commodity. So I think there's some give and take there. We'll see. I mean, it wouldn't totally shock me if they decide to cut Dean like early, if they make that decision, just because he is a vet, and to kind of let him find a landing spot. Just let him go. You can make that choice too. So a lot of different pieces of math there.
Sure. But that is, certainly a spot where I'm very excited to see play out. It reminds me of the offensive line battles that we talked about last season. Obviously, that depth got super tested with all the injuries and stuff like that. But going into camp with like 10 deep, I feel that way about the defensive line this year. Sticking with the defensive line here, Stratocast 1134 said, Alan, supposedly last week we signed defensive tackle Blake Mangelson as a UDFA. It was announced that nothing happened, not on the roster. I've heard nothing more about it. Do you have any info?
So it was announced by BYU that he had signed, and it was reported that he had signed, but the Steelers have not officially announced the signing. As to why, I don't know. It could be a physical issue. We see that sometimes this time of year. He had been reported to have signed with someone else and then didn't, and then was reported that he signed with the Steelers instead. So, I don't know what the issue is.
I was wondering, has it ever happened where it got accidentally put out that it was a UDFA and it was really like a rookie camp invite or something like that?
I mean, BYU football put out that he had signed, which feels pretty.
Yeah, sure. I was just wondering if that's ever happened, because that
Tyler on this. Doesn't he have people that know people over there? Like,
yeah,
get him on this mystery. We'll find out on Friday, if not before, as to what's going on. It could also just be like a process thing where, like, if they do like want him to take a physical, at this point they were like, oh, well, don't fly out twice. Just show up on Friday or Thursday night or whatever and pass your physical, and we'll sign I'll have you sign the contract. That could be as simple as that. I don't know, but clearly there's some kind of holdup. I don't know what it is. We'll see. I mean, the Steelers have had a rough go of this with undrafted free agents the last couple of years. They have two guys in the last 3 years that they tried to sign as undrafted free agents, just decided, never mind, I'm going to retire anyway. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, maybe that's 3 years in a row potentially here with Mangelson.
I don't remember if it was 3 years in a row. I think it was. I think it was 23 and 22. Monty Pottebaum was an Iowa guy. Quite a theme here. And then the other one was an Iowa State center whose name escapes me. It's a very Iowa centric show again.
Yeah,
but he retired to go work on the farm. And I can remember Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator, was like, man, how lucrative is farming in Iowa? Like, we can't keep guys away from that. Like, I think we pay okay. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I hear good things about the Iowa farm scene. So shout out to him. Hope he's doing well, whatever his name might be that is escaping right now. One more thing that we get, by the way, some of these YouTube names crack me up, and unless it's like super derogatory or something like that, I will absolutely read them on here. This person's name is Branson Sloppy Seconds. So Branson Sloppy Seconds,
right on the line there, Branson.
Said, if the Steelers send one of the drafted rookies to the practice squad, is another team able to offer them a contract?
Yeah, so you have to not only that, they have to go through waivers. So if you cut a rookie, they have to go through waivers. Every other team gets a chance they don't have to sign a new contract. They just take the player with the Steelers rookie contract they already have them assigned to, and they can have them. They put them on their 53-man roster and they're theirs. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a guy like Dante Kent, 7th round pick, if the Steelers want to get him to practice squad, he's got to get through waivers. You know, and so now
what's the protection rules on the practice squad again?
So once you get a player to your practice squad, he's yours. If another team wants to take him from your practice squad, you have the right to say no and say, no, we'll put him on our 53-man roster instead. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if they do take him, they have to keep him on the roster for 4 weeks. Or is it 3 weeks?
I thought it was 3 weeks.
It might be 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. They have to keep him on the roster. So, yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous game trying to get rookies to the practice squad, but it's definitely one that you can have some success with. There's all sorts of tricks about the timing of the release. Do you want to cut them early? Do you want to cut them late and hide them in a big batch of cuts and hope nobody notices and that kind of thing? Do you want to not play him in the 3rd preseason game because you think he's going to look too good and you're worried that's going to show him off? Like, all these are strategies that have been employed by teams over the years to try to figure out how to get their guys through waivers, but I don't think there's a tried and true way that works every time.
Isn't there, though, like once they're on the practice squad, obviously, isn't there a limit to how many times you can protect one player during the season from being signed to an active 53 or something like that?
No, they did away with that. So now it's just the regular.
When the heck did that happen?
That was a COVID rule that they didn't renew.
Okay.
So yeah, like you can just they don't have like designated protection practice squad players anymore.
All right, yeah, man. Told you guys, I learned a lot of stuff on here too. In my head, I've been operating under the assumption that was still a thing. So, all right, there we go. There was a question that I definitely had planned on getting to, but it's going to take way too much time. We will get to it along with the jersey thing that Alan wants to talk about with jersey retirement, because Norm wants to know about Tomlin and getting the coordinators right, why it seems like he's unable to. I know that we touched on this in the past, but it also feels like a pretty time-consuming topic, so we'll definitely do that at some point this week as well, along with the jersey retirement mentions that Alan and I want to talk about. But Alan, until then, tell people they can find you.
We're done. That's it. Man, the show goes so fast some days. I swear.
And scene.
Yeah. We'll get to one more here. I got one from Steven 116th, who is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get Steven on here. Yeah.
When does the preseason schedule come out? A day or two after the regular season, up to a day or two after the regular schedule comes out, we will know the Steelers' preseason opponents and weeks. So we'll know, like, they're going to play the Detroit Lions preseason week 1 and the Carolina Panthers preseason week 2 and the New York Giants preseason week 3. The actual date and times for those generally don't get released until later in the summer.
1 home, 2 away this year, because even though
we
the Island game's a home game, so
usually in that it's been week 1 away, week 2 home, week 3 away. But we've only been doing this a couple of years, so I don't know, but we'll see.
Okay. All right, good stuff. Now that we got Steven's box checked here.
Steven taken care of here. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell the people they can find you.
Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account. SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. And sign up for SN Plus, which is better because then you are just paying us, and we don't have to deal with those pesky ad people, and you don't need to get, like, the other day I was on a website looking up, I can't remember, like, famous artists, painters, like Van Gogh and Jackson Pollock or something like that. And the ads are like McDonald's breakfast. And I'm like, how? Why? Like, who decided that this is what needed to be here? I don't know. Like, we have no control over that. We don't pick them. They're done. It's just cut the whole process up. Sign up for SN Plus. The ads it's way better without the ads, and exclusive stuff from me and DB, including another subscribers only live stream coming up. I think next week probably we'll do that after rookie camp. we'll have some inside info to dish out about what we saw over at rookie
How
camp.
long's rookie camp?
Last 3 days, but only 2 days of practice, Friday and Saturday.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
Good
then
stuff.
like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. That is free and very helpful to us as well. If everybody was subscribing and that was listening every day or watching every day, we would be in a much better place. And I'm confused by the number. Did we go down or did we go up a whole 100? I think
I don't know. It says plus 176 in the last 28 days, but I'm not sure about specifically over the last 24 hours.
Maybe we went down. It was weird yesterday too. I see 15,640 subscribers, and I tried to go there. T. Gray Scales, that's my guy. He had like 5 different stints with the Steelers over like a 3-year span. What's that?
We just had 40 recently too, because I know I threw out the Kareth White from the 2019 season.
There you go.
The last time, and that wasn't that long ago. There was another. There were 2 players that wore that same number that same year.
Was it Tony Brooks James?
Yes. Yep.
The 2019 Steelers are just an unlimited. It's an unlimited supply of bad random Steelers. Like, the game everyone likes to play on Twitter where you're like, name a random former whatever. If you need to name a random former Steeler, you just look up the 2019 team, and you got all the Kareth Whites, Nick Vanetts, Deion Keynes. It just goes on.
Blake
and on
Martinez also wore 40 in 2023.
That's a very good, very random one as well. But nothing's like that 2019 season in terms of just pure muck. The fact that roster made it to 500
and had a 3-game losing streak at the end. Like, they were 8-5. Like, very much looked like they were going to make the playoffs with that team.
Yeah, until Myles Garrett assaulted Mason Rudolph, and then it all fell apart. Actually, it fell apart earlier that game before he did that, but I digress.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell here on YouTube. If you're listening somewhere else, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Love reading those 5-star reviews, so get more of those in there if you are listening over there. Even if you're on YouTube, go leave 5-star review on your favorite listening platform. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing over on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.